Yay!
Hey, welcome everyone to the bi-weekly SingularityNet archive workgroup meeting, autumn summer holidays edition. And just oh, trying to get used to this mouse. Okay, I've created an issue for today and I'll open it. Okay, here's a brief introduction. What we do, we try and build up a history of the activities of the SingularityNet Ambassador Program. And our goal is to provide a collaborative platform for the archive community in SingularityNet to share knowledge, ideas, and best practice. And we welcome contributions from anyone interested in SingularityNet, whether it's a new project code, example, or documentation. And in our meetings, we use GitHub project boards. This is an issue from a GitHub project board. And we just record who's present and use the then run through issues on the board. So it's just kind of like refreshing at the moment, obviously. Okay, so today we'll be going through the project board and then we may have a brief discussion about something else at the end. Is that right, Vanessa?
Sorry, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I'll take it from the top. This is ordered by labels and starting with the ambassadors GitBook. And that's Andre and Vanessa.
Yeah, I think there is quite a lot to do to this because there's been some changes, over since we've been running the archives work group to things like what work groups there are and what the process is for becoming an ambassador. My feeling is that that is really in flux at the moment, so maybe we should hold off updating the GitBook until it's all clear, and then we get it all, particularly the stuff that people are discussing about roles and kind of tiers and how you become an ambassador. So I feel like it would be a bit of a waste of time to kind of update it right now. And I feel it seems quite likely that there will be something definite decided within the next couple of weeks. So
I put on hold until changes decided then.
yeah. I mean, for anybody who's watching the recording of this, it'd probably be maybe too late by then, but there's a meeting on Friday where I think things around these issues will be discussed. So it's on the calendar. And if you're watching this and you're interested, then maybe come to that.
An onboarding meeting, is that?
No, it's not an onboarding meeting. It's about roles and hierarchies and tiers and all the things that people have been talking about. So
Friday. That's Friday the 11th, isn't it?
yeah, that's right.
Let's put that there so just to note what we just said.
But what I will do is probably draft a list of all the current active work groups. And I think this refers to the archive as well, because we've got some things in our like bog standard list of meetings that don't really happen. Like I don't think broadcast ideation happens.
Right.
So yeah, I think we just need to make sure that what we're listing in the archive is what actually happens.
Yeah. I suppose it just needs to be the ambassador's GitBook needs to be part of the whole workflow, and that okay.
Yeah, I suppose that is a thing, isn't it? It's like maybe there needs to be a workflow for like noticing changes that need to be added to the ambassador's GitBook. But it feels like, to be honest, it's going to be, oh, we'll notice that there is one and we'll do it.
Yeah.
But I suppose also the question is, to me, it feels like the ambassador's GitBook is not particularly an archival thing. So we don't need to record and archive how it used to be. It should just be current. Does that seem right?
No, I think that's fine. What do you think, Andre?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, it should be quiet. It's just literally a guidebook. Yeah. It's not archival, but more of a guidebook. Yeah.
I mean, it does feel like, in some ways it would be interesting to have that information archived somehow as like how it changed, but I don't know.
Is that GitBook also connected to GitHub?
Yeah,
because then we can capture the changes like that. Yeah.
yeah. No, it is
Yeah, I
connected to
suppose
GitHub.
so. Yeah, I suppose.
Okay, should we move on
Yeah.
from that? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Thanks for the input there. That's great. I'll leave a comment there. I mean, by the way, the budget amount on that is still 500. The due date should probably be put it to our next meeting. We're probably going to have to discuss it again at some point. And I'll move on to the next item, which is in the archive category, and that's the archival workflow design. And again, this is you, Vanessa.
Yeah, I did have something to bring, but I haven't quite finished it, so I think maybe we need to put it off, well, next meeting, or we can discuss it async in Discord.
Okay, that's fine.
But yeah, the main thing that I'm kind of finding a bit frustrating is the whole thing of the meetings summaries channel and just what people are adding or not adding. So I think this goes hand in hand with the guidance notes, which is coming up. So I don't think there's any need to minute anything, honestly.
Okay.
It's just going to be, yes, I'll bring a completed workflow design next time.
Right. Okay. I will. Yeah. Thank you. We don't have to cover all the issues. If we haven't covered an issue, we just say we haven't covered an issue and then we move on. So that's what I'll do. So the next item in the archive label is the LLMs to create archival finding aids, and that's Andre and Vanessa again. So
Yeah, this also goes hand in hand with the tool development and the guidance notes. And I am planning to spend some time on the tool this weekend. I haven't had time. But this Friday and the weekend, I'm going to start to give this my full attention.
I'll just put work to commence shortly.
Yeah.
We can only do what we do. I mean, we're
And
very
that's
busy.
exciting that you're going to be looking at it. I mean, when we get to guidance notes, I'll show some stuff. But I mean, yeah, I think it also ties in with what I'm trying to do around tagging and trying to get a little task force together. And I think I'm doing it at a really bad time because it's summer holidays. So maybe this is something that we can get people together to do in September or whatever, and that will feed into this.
I suppose people are also writing deep funding proposals as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll move on from this one. I was supposed to put a similar note in the tool one, Andre.
Yeah.
I'll do that. So for the sake of, I'll comment on there, and if I jump to the tool task, I was going to ask. And it's a bit out of order. So under tool development, is that the same status for tool development, or do you have some different updates for this one?
No, it's the same.
Okay.
I haven't had any time, but I've dedicated this weekend to this.
What I was going to say, you're gone.
Usually I dedicate like an hour, but the initial setup is going to take more than an hour. And I can't really break it up, so I have to do it in one session. It's going to be like a couple of hours work to set the whole thing up.
I'll add that as well. I was going to mention this because, the way that this came up the last meeting, where we were doing issues for tool development per month for budget reasons. Yeah. And this one is dated July. So I was going to ask you, do you want to create a new one for August, or do you want? Yeah, you do. Okay.
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Okay, I can do that now as well, or if you could do it, if you had access to the board, could you create one?
Yes,
and
got access. So
yeah, and then I'll close this down. Actually, I'll close it down now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I'll close the issue, and then that will. I mean, it's charged $200, but we can always review that at some point. So I'll close that issue. Okay, sorry to jump around a bit, but I'll just, I jumped to that because it kind of was complementing the LLM issue. Moving on to meeting summaries from Ambassadors Town Hall, Vanessa.
Yeah, we talked about this in the last meeting and we said, oh yeah, we'll have it. But then Peter was the person who was here who was kind of going to lead on it or make sure it happens. And he's now on holiday. So as far as I know, we haven't had any since we talked about it in the last meeting. So I'm not quite sure.
Okay, it's just a status. Then Peter's on holiday. Community members are stepping in to the stepping in to support weekly town hall. So what we should do is probably update when he comes back.
Well, I don't know. I'm just wondering if I should be chasing people. Like, say, Fi did it last night. I wonder if I should message him to say, oh,
Okay.
what? I don't know if he's going to add a summary. He might anyway, but yeah.
Okay.
I mean, does anyone know? It's recorded, isn't it? And where do the recordings get posted? Because I've had a look on the Ambassadors Town Hall, sorry, the Ambassadors YouTube channel, and I can't see any recent ones, so I don't know where they go.
Is that, yeah, it's either there or the SinguarityNet YouTube. You might want to check there as well, but it should be up there definitely for one of them.
I mean, I don't maybe don't minute Chase Fi for meeting summaries because I don't know if that's what he understood to do or whatever. So let's not minute that. I'll just, yeah, maybe we should look at it when Peter's back.
I mean, yeah, it's not something we need to do, but obviously, we can only do it when people are available, and so I'll put the due date to. There's no amount on this at the moment. I'll leave it blank for the time being.
I don't think there needs to be. It's part of the normal process of people posting meeting summaries. And in the last meeting, we just said this was one we weren't getting any from.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Okay, moving on to let's check what's in chat here. Moving on to the archive GitBook for July.
God, I seem to have so much to say in this meeting. Yeah, if you scroll down to the bottom, what I'm going to do from now on is just list the ones that haven't posted and haven't said, oh, there wasn't a meeting. So I haven't chased these yet, but I will.
Right.
But it's just like interesting to see them all there. These are the ones that are happening, but we haven't had anything. I think, as far as I know, AI Sandbox, I had a quick DM, no, not a DM, in the meetings channel, I asked Fi about it and sort of said, it seems like it's maybe something that doesn't lend itself to actual meeting summaries. So he's having a look at maybe what we could record so that it doesn't disappear from the record. But I don't think it needs to be on the list formally anymore. And we've already talked about Ambassador Town Hall as not sending any summaries.
Yeah.
Deep Funding Town Hall, I don't even know what we should archive about that because, again, it's recorded, but I can't find recent recordings anywhere.
I think, again, that might be on the SingularityNet main YouTube channel.
Well, that's what I'm saying is when you look at it, I can't see any recent ones. Maybe
did you look under live as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Andre.
Yep. Yeah, maybe they still have to upload them.
Yeah.
I wonder who does that.
I'm not sure. I think maybe Jan would do it. I don't know since he runs the meetings, but I don't know. Maybe he's delegated it.
I mean, when I originally started the archive, I kind of included deep funding as kind of more. I recognized it was outside of the ambassadors, but I thought it was just worth taking note of very briefly, but maybe that was a mistake. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But then also the ambassador work group, which I think has now changed to leadership group, its name.
Mhm.
We don't get summaries from them. Can you scroll up a little bit as well? We don't get them from writers work group, and I haven't chased Kenichi about that to ask him, you know, what he wants to do about that. But yeah, video work group, I think usually does, but there's a couple that we haven't had. Can you scroll up a little bit more? Okay. Whoa. Process Guild, I think this is a function of TiVo having been on holiday, and I think what it was is it didn't happen. So I just need to tidy that up. But yeah, Writers Work Group is one that notably doesn't send summaries.
Okay.
So I just need to kind of chat to it's Kenichi, isn't it? And just find out if he wants it to be recorded or not.
So that's I put to
I think actually if you don't comment, because that's my list now for who to chase, and if there's a comment underneath it, it will distract me.
No, the only thing that needs to be done is to create an issue for August. That's all.
It's done.
Oh, is it done? Okay, sorry, I haven't checked. Okay, well, I think that's a great summary, and it kind of says everything that needs to be said. So I can move on if everyone's happy. Oh, sorry, I'm going to put the due date again because that has to stay open because we're still not resolved.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm suggesting is that I'll bring it to the next meeting, and I feel that there might be questions or issues about Deep Funding Town Hall, Ambassadors Town Hall, and Video Work Group, and we just need to clarify what's happening with those going forward. So I'll bring that to the next meeting.
I might jump to the other one for August as it's related, and I'll go back to the report thinking. So is it a similar sort of situation for the August?
Well, really, I haven't started. I'm not going to start pulling out which ones need chasing until the end of the month.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that it's a little bit thin this month because people are on holiday, things are not happening. So,
right. So should we just leave that as the update for August?
It's just ongoing, I think.
Ongoing. Okay, there's no need even to make a note, I don't think, really.
No.
And I'll circle back to the court. I think that's meant to be planned, this one, so maybe it should be in to do. I'm not sure.
Oh no, I think it's just in there to remind us to do it. So if it's not due till September, that's fine, but we could start making any notes in here about what we've done so we don't forget. So I mean, we have just kept the archive going, and we've done the work that we've already talked about around tooling.
I'll just put that as an explanation to prepare for report. And what have you said there? Could you just say that again? The
just ongoing archiving. And the stuff we've already talked about in this meeting. I mean, have you been doing like backlog stuff?
No.
Okay. Oh, we could. Yeah, I think maybe if we can just all go in, and when you do some work, just maybe add a note to this.
Yeah. I mean, I'll put tool development as well, Andre, and I'll actually put a space there for backlog because this is really to remind ourselves, as Vanessa says, to prepare work for a report that we would have to submit by, well, it'd be due at the end of September, but presumably we could work into it in October.
I mean, to be honest, I'm thinking this is probably we don't need to do this because when I come to write the report, I'll look at all the open tasks and see what's been done, won't I?
Yeah.
We don't need to list it here.
Well, I'll keep it's open, so we'll return to it, you know. So right, if I move on from there and we're on to the final archive label issue, which is how to archive group meetings, how to archive group meetings. Sorry, which I mean,
I sort of feel that this maybe we can take this after we've taken the guidance notes item, which I was going to push to the second half of the meeting. So maybe we could take those two together.
Okay, so that's I'll put here as a note, so related to guidance notes discussion. I mean, these comments will be dated, so we know we can relate them. You see, so and then just update the okay. Right, this next one is the archive GitBook backlog, and really I haven't done anything on this, so there's really no updates. This obviously still needs to be done, so that's the record for that issue. The due date I'll just put forward to.
How are you finding time to do it?
It's I suppose the major issue blocker for me, I shall probably put it here actually, is main blocker is whether to archive mirror boards.
What, from the past?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've sort of decided we're not going to do it going forward, haven't we? So
Yeah.
I think it would be valid not to.
What do you, I mean, do you agree with that? Oh, sorry, do you agree with that, Andre?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay, agree not to okay. And then okay, so if we agree not to archive past Miro boards.
I mean, I think you can archive a link to them, because then we said, I think in the last meeting, that at some future date there might be tools that can kind of mine them for text and that we could archive. But yeah, we don't have to do that process of like taking a PDF and and an image and all that.
Okay, I'll put these as agreed decision items, and then following on from that, then it becomes a question of, well, what do we archive? Do we do we just argue? The main objective for archiving is archiving text, isn't it? So is how to archive text records from the past. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, is what text records do we have from the past? If people were not making summaries, what have we got?
I think all we have really is possibly transcripts from well, we would have to do that. So again, that's something because I'm kind of responsible for the backlog. So could I just set myself a task to look into that and to look at all?
Yeah, I think that would be good. And because there is questions about whether old transcripts are actually saved in Read AI. I think we had this question before, didn't we? So it's like, do we still have access to them? But if we've got, as you said before, if we've got the video, we can run it through Otter.
Yeah. I'm going to look into use of Otter AI to process. It's historical meetings, and it's mostly going to be town hall meetings actually. But we'll see. And that's me again, so I'll do that. Okay, so there is quite a lot of update there. I'll comment on that, and we've agreed these two things here, and that's an outstanding task for me, which I'll leave open there. Okay, and the due date has been put forward, and I'll move on from this now to the next item, which is under community engagement, and that's how to publicize archive work group meetings, and that's all of us again.
I mean, we had all these ideas and I've kind of done them up to a point. I'm mentioning it in Ambassador's Town Hall, and I hope it's just because it's summer that no one's coming.
Yeah.
I do think also that, getting people involved via specific tasks, like we've talked about tagging, may be an issue, a way in. But it's probably outside the scope of what this work group can fund. So let's just say that.
I think that's going to be the best way to get people involved, is if we maybe find a task that's just a small task that we can put on the viewer board. Maybe someone will see it, they'll do it.
I mean,
Maybe
this is the thing about getting people actually archiving meetings, but I don't think they can do it until we've shown them how. So the idea is that they come to a meeting and we show them how, but they're not coming to meetings, then.
Yes, yes. No, I'm thinking maybe like just a simple task that doesn't have like an expiry date, just something we leave on there that someone can pick up. And then if they pick it up then and they do it, then we can meet with, tell them about this meeting.
What sort of task can you think of that it could be?
We'll have to give that some thought. Maybe could be like an onboarding type of task, maybe. Some onboarding type of task.
Yeah, something to think about.
You can give it some thought, something to do with archiving.
Yeah, I mean, need to put forward to that.
I mean, I wonder if it'd be even worth making a tiny bounty for people to come to a meeting. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it would be better if it's like an archive task, then you get people that's interested in the work.
Yeah, this is true. All right, should we all have a little bit of a think about that before next meeting and just see if we can come back with an idea of what that little onboarding task could be?
That's a task. And no one's doing anything that. Okay, that's the update. Okay. Thank you everyone for that one. And I'll put the due date for forward again. That's the next meeting. And move on to the next item, which is well, you want to talk about this in the second half of the meeting. Yeah, okay. So I'll bypass that for the moment and move on to the governance GitBook, which is all of us again. I don't think anything's been done on this at all, is there?
No, I mean, the last stage that we had is that we'd done all the stuff with the governance framework doc where Felix has kind of put it on as each issue that arose from it and then a doc that people can comment on. We talked about it in the last governance work group meeting, and Felix is kind of having to withdraw a bit, so there's not going to be governance work group meetings where we can run it from. So the question seems to be, well, do we run it from here? And maybe this is the onboarding task. Make a comment in that doc. I mean, the governance GitBook is not archival. It's not really anyway, but maybe it brings people in. I don't know.
Yeah, use as an onboarding task. I quite like that. But it's how you frame that, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other feedback on that? I suppose we just carry it forward for the moment, do we?
I mean, I think there is also stuff about the things that governance work group was discussing about establishing governance baselines and adding that somehow to the GitBook. So we've talked about whether that, and I just think we have to be a bit careful that we don't take on too much when there's only 3 of us at the moment. But
yeah, we need to consider. I'll put that here. Actually, consider our commitments.
Because I think our primary commitment's got to be to the archive, hasn't it? Rather than the governance GitBook. But, I just think there was such interesting stuff going on there, and I'm really loath to just let it drop. In the last governance meeting, I suggested, like, creating a couple of focus groups to carry out the like outstanding action items and then reassessing, but there's not been a lot of enthusiasm for that. So maybe that's just summer and maybe it'll all take off in the autumn, or maybe not. I really don't have a clear picture of that.
Maybe clear in September, let's say. So this is just a kind of a snapshot of what our comments. So yeah, so I mean, you know, I won't make a notes. Yeah, so really the main question is whether how much we should take up the slack, I suppose, in the archive work group. But then I suppose the other side of that is what kind of capacity we have. Yeah. Okay, I'll comment on that, and let's see, you take forward again to next meeting and move on. And I think we've discussed, well, you've created the issue for tool development, so that's kind of redundant, so we can discuss that at the next meeting. But I'll put the due date there for next meeting there, and put that under development, I think it is. Yeah, development.
Yeah, I think this is,
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah. So right, the last meeting one here I'll close as well. Unless anyone has any comments on the last meeting.
No, I think it could be closed.
Okay, I'll take
Yeah.
that as closed. Okay, so close that. And that is the end of the run through for the project board. And we will now return to a discussion of guidance notes for meeting facilitators. Do you want the issue open on a screen share, Vanessa, here, or should we stop screen share?
No, if you open the issue and go down to the bottom, there's a link.
God. Okay, there. Okay.
Yeah. So in previous sessions, we've reached the conclusion that the best approach is to give people templates. And in the last meeting, if I remember rightly, we were saying that it wouldn't be useful to just have one template that is supposed to fit all. So what I've done is I've created 3 different ones based on the discussions that I had ages ago, I think around June, with a few different workgroup leads, and also what I'm observing from what people post. So if you like scroll through that document, we've got a kind of full archival one. We've got, scroll down, we've got a really minimalist one, and then we've got a narrative one. In the last meeting, we said, yeah, these narratives that people are posting are not that useful for how the archive would interface with an LLM, but I've tried to adapt it a little bit so that people who like a narrative approach can still use it. So if you just run up to the top again, this full archival one is based on what TiVo tends to do. So the top 2 items are common to all of them: the name and the date of the meeting and who's present, with like host or documenter in brackets after whoever that is. Then we've got things like meeting videos and Miro board links and transcript links, if there are such. But this is one that I wanted to see what you think, Andre, because we've talked about this idea of maybe an AI transcript would not be immediately visible or accessible for people because of privacy concerns, but it would be there in the back end somehow for an LLM to be able to interface with in order to answer questions. I'm not quite sure if we did that, how would we do that?
How accessible is those read.ai links? Is it only people with accounts that can access them, or is it public?
As far as I know, it's only people who've got the account, but I don't know. You see, I think there was an issue with them changing which read AI account they had, and then not having any more access to transcripts from before. So I don't know how long it stores them. We might have to pull them out and store them somewhere until such time as we set up
Yeah.
the archive in that way. But
Yeah. Should I be taking notes here, or does the
What we can do, so yeah, I just wanted to mention quickly, the one possible thing is if we I can create a tool where we've got these 3 templates, and then they fill the meeting summary in this tool.
Mhm.
And then this tool will hide that link. The tool can send a message to the meeting summary Discord, format it so it looks nice, and it can then also update the database, already process this data and update the database, and then that link won't be exposed.
That sounds ace. I mean,
Yeah.
for the interim, I'm guessing that what I'm picturing is that we'll give people 3 Google Doc templates. They pick which one they want to use. They tweak it slightly to fit what they want. And then they just use that repeatedly for each meeting. But how long do you think the sort of automation process could take?
I can make that priority because it's quite easy to build the forms.
Okay.
But the thing that might take time is the database, because I still have to experiment with the database. That's why I actually need to do that first, and then I can come to this actually.
right? Okay.
Is this distracting you from other stuff you need to be doing, or do you think this is what we need to be working on?
I think this template is, we should definitely maybe start to let them use it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like that Google approach,
Mhm.
maybe it's going to get tweaked to however they want to use it, and then we take those versions, and then
Yeah.
I think by that time I can create this tool that will, but I first need to do this initial setup so I can see what the database looks like,
Right.
and then once that is set up and working, then I can definitely build the tool. Once the database is set up, then it will be quick to build this tool.
So
Okay.
does this mean that once the tool is built, people wouldn't be going through the meeting summaries channel to post their summaries? They'd be just directly using the tool?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so the workflow, what the workflow could be then is that we direct people to complete a form, Andre, and then that
Yes.
okay, and then but that could feed back into I mean, I'm not sure how much additional work that would be to post back into Discord, or is that another step?
We can still, that's an easy step to do. It can still send a message to Discord if we want to.
Yeah, could it contain the content of the form then?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how it could update the meeting summary channel, isn't it?
Yes.
That would be great. There has been a little bit of conversation recently about how each work group keeps abreast of what other work groups are doing. And there's been talk of, get your meeting summary up literally the same day so people can read it. And I think people are quite into the idea of keeping that meeting summary channel working. So yeah, I think if the tool can post to Discord, that'd be amazing.
It could make it easy for people, although there is the formalism issue. Like some people don't want like the full template. Maybe not everyone wants to use that, but
exactly. But they can use the other ones.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's okay to have 3 different templates. What I'm seeing as the process now is to share these as 3 separate docs and get each work group to pick which one they fancy, and then they tweak it to suit themselves.
Right.
And we've got, so in the end, we might have 3 different versions of the full archival one, 2 different versions of the minimalist one. But I don't know, I've tried to keep it so that there won't be that much tweaking. I mean, if we can just look at the top again, because there's a couple of things that, go on.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine if they have different versions. At the end of the day, I'll just we'll put all these different versions in the tool.
Yeah.
And just upload. So that's fine.
It'd be cool actually if the tool had a drop down for each different work group and then they could just pick their one. That would be ace.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, isn't it? Yeah. And also it could, like, as you say, you sort of hinted at, Vanessa, it kind of like, it could fulfill help resolve other issues apart from archive issues, like, having a point of reference for who has decided what kind of thing as well.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of other things in here. If we feel like we've got time and energy to just kind of keep trucking through these, there's some stuff that I would like some feedback on.
Okay.
Is that all right with you both?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
if you can keep scrolled up to the top for me.
Okay. Okay.
Nice one.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, the kind of full archival one, which is very much based on what TiVo does, will include a link to the meeting video, a link to a Miro board if one is used. I think I might change that to tools or whatever, or something else, because then people can put links to whatever else they use if they don't use Miro and they do use something else. Transcript, yeah, we've talked about. And then there are these things that TiVo often uses, decision items, action items, insight items, and learning items. If you have a look at where you can see example under insight, I've put an example, if you want to just click on that. This is, why is that link not going to, oh, it is, okay. So this is from process modeling. You can see how he uses that. Insight and learning. I'm just wondering, do people feel that insight item and learning item are distinct enough and clear enough, or do we need to rethink that?
I mean, how I interpret that, I'm be interested to see how AI might interpret this, because, okay, so I suppose if you were training an AI, you'd have to define what an insight is, So, okay, and then how distinguish it from learning. So I'm not quite clear of the distinction, I must admit.
I mean, what I think it is, and what it generally seems to be in meeting summaries from TiVo's projects, is insight is something that somebody brings to the meeting. It's like we're having a discussion on onboarding and somebody brings an insight that they've
Right.
got. Whereas learning is what comes out of the discussion in that meeting.
Okay.
That's what it seems to be.
You see, that could translate to, and that certainly could translate to an LLM, as long as there's an understanding from a tagging sense of what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you could say to the LLM, okay, if it's tagged by learning, then interpret it in that way, kind of thing. What do you think, Andre?
Yeah. If we have those, like those two sentences Vanessa just mentioned.
Yeah.
Like if we have those sentences, then it will be helpful. Maybe more than one version of those sentences.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I feel like maybe in TiVo's meetings, they're using it kind of intuitively to say, is it an insight or is it a learning? But my sense is that a learning comes out of the meeting. So is that different? Is it clear enough? Is it different enough? Do we need that distinction?
I suspect it's going to be an experimental issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's hard to imagine how an LLM would frame it without doing it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, but I suppose what you could have, I mean, if the documenter is putting it into one or other of those categories themselves, the LLM doesn't have to. It just knows that if it's labeled a learning, it's something that came out of the meeting. So if you asked an LLM what was learnt or what came out of such and such a meeting on such and such a date, then it would pick out the learning items and tell you that.
It would have to know the difference between learning tag and what was learnt, for example. So yeah.
Would it?
I think so, yeah.
Would you not just tell it that if somebody asks about things like if somebody asks what was learnt, it looks at things that are labeled learning?
That's exactly what I mean. Though you'd need to train in some way, so that it would know to do that. So it wouldn't go all over the place looking for learning all over the place, but only looking in that area.
Yeah. I feel like it puts a lot of responsibility on the documenter to identify those things. And I don't know if maybe we need to get TiVo training people into how to.
Yeah, it sounds like
Yeah,
go on, Andre.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree with that. And the training is maybe a good idea.
Yeah,
It could
yeah.
be a reward possibility here, maybe.
Yeah.
Because it is a specific task for TiVo, for example.
Yes.
So, and I think that's valid to pay
Mhm.
TiVo to do that. Particularly as it's like running an experiment, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Yep.
Should we go back
Can
to
you go back
the?
to the doc? Yeah, because what I'm thinking is that most of the people who I think are going to want to use this template are going to be TiVo. I don't know who else is going to want to do it that way. So in the end, maybe, oof, maybe TiVo's training himself. I don't know.
But
But
it could appeal to TiVo as well, because for that reason, because
yeah. And I guess also we don't know what other future work groups there might be, and maybe they would want to try this out. I don't know. The other thing that I wanted to sort of ask about is the final point, which is keywords. And I've kind of thought about this as maybe a way of, we've talked about a tagging task on stuff that has already been added to the archive, but I'm thinking about maybe going forward, we're asking people who minute a meeting to add keywords, and that in effect are tags. And I'm thinking I want people to be as broad as they like. I like to see people including words for topics that are covered, but also, titles of books or videos or other source material that's mentioned, or even, emotional content, how the meeting felt. And yes, that's subjective, and I don't share the view that history can't be subjective. I think it can. So, and it could even be an activity that people do in a meeting, the last 5 minutes, everybody could add their keywords.
And I think that's quite, I don't know what you think, Andre. I think that's quite interesting because, again, you're kind of putting it in a bucket, aren't you? Because you're saying, look in this section here for keywords, and then that gives you like a bucket of data, which you can then deal with. Yeah. So the fact that it has those range, I think it's not a problem, really.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. It's the more we can capture, the better.
Yeah.
And if we, you want to search for meetings that mentions books, then you can find it like that as well.
Yeah, that's right.
No, I'm sort of thinking that, say, like what's come up recently with discussing whether meetings are duplicating each other's work. If a summary went up fast enough, and this is what we were saying, is that you could then, if you were about to sort of discuss something about, say, onboarding in a meeting that wasn't an onboarding meeting, you could just go quickly to the archive and search what's been discussed about onboarding this week. And then you'd see it all and you'd go, okay, so we need to work from that rather than reinventing the wheel. So it would be a way of keeping us informed of each other's work. So hopefully that would. But, I'm also thinking if we do manage to do a tagging activity, the way I tend to work with community tagging is you let people tag as widely as they can at first, and just like you have 400 tags or whatever, and then you look at them and you kind of group them and you prioritize them, and you eventually end up with a tag taxonomy. So maybe then that is what happens with the tool that you were talking about, Andre, and we end up with a keyword section that actually has a controlled vocabulary. Maybe.
Yes. Yeah, we can capture it.
I don't know if it would go that way. Do you think it would still work as well as if we had it, if the keywords section in meeting summaries was just completely free text and you could just put anything?
I can. I was thinking when we can have a section in the tool where they can add keywords. It's difficult if it's free text, but There are ways you can capture like different words, or if they want to add a link. Does this include links as well?
I wouldn't do, no. I'd literally
Yeah,
just
no,
have it as
no.
tags, like keyword tags, really.
Yes. No, if it's just words, then the tool can have this one. I've got a library that actually makes it very easy to add tags. Once you type, it will show if the tag exists, or you can just create your own new tag.
And
you just press enter. You can add more tags.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the sort of thing I was thinking of, and I was kind of wondering, is that archivally useful? Or do we want to give people a more of a controlled vocabulary for keywords? But I just think, yeah, meetings are so varied that I don't know if we could possibly have a controlled vocabulary that would cover all the things it needed to. So I kind of feel like I'd like it to be open, but I don't know. Maybe we need to do it by practice and see what happens.
Yes. Yeah, let's see how they handle these Google Forms. So I think we'll learn a
People
lot
might
from
hate
that.
them. They might just go, no, I'm not using that. But we'll see.
Yeah, maybe they don't.
But then, yeah, the other thing, which, just for the record of the recording of the meeting, in the last meeting, we were talking, I think Peter was the one who raised it, about action items and, the sort of best practice of listing it, taking your action items to the top of the agenda for the next meeting.
Yes.
So I would include that in this template as a kind of way of encouraging people to do that. So
that is actually possible. What we can do with this tool is it can look at the previous meeting summary, and when he falls in the next meeting summary, it will bring up those previous action items.
That'd be really good.
What would be amazing, actually, is if the tool could then generate an agenda for you, which just puts your action items at the top of it. Would that be
We can do that. Yeah, we can do that as well.
Yeah.
That'd be ace.
Yeah.
So you use the tool to fill in your meeting summary, and then it generates an agenda for your next meeting. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a little worried at the things I describe as really cool.
This thing is going to evolve, eh? Yeah. But that's good. That's nice.
But it is quite simple as well, so I quite like that. Even TiVo's thing is, I know some people, maybe I've got the kind of mindset that thinks it's simple, because some people do find the full archival template a bit much, don't they? So.
But could I ask, if you were thinking about something that was called a full archival template, is there anything else that should be added to that which isn't there?
The attendees, the purpose of the workgroup, that's interesting. I
mean, if you look at the link there, this is kind of what TiVo does on all his meetings, and it's only a sentence, it's nothing dramatic. But see, he calls it context, developing process, right there.
Yeah. And then notes and summary. Yeah, so, I mean, does that change, or does it remain the same?
It's the same for every meeting.
Right.
So it would almost be a pre-filled for your group.
I mean, that's interesting because it's also like context. It relates to scope as well, doesn't it? So yeah, that is quite interesting. But again, that'd be quite simple, wouldn't it, Andre? Because you're kind of, it's not going to change, So
yes. I can make it so it's like pre-filled, but if the work group does want to change it in the future, you'll still be able to change it.
I suppose the way we'd handle any transcripts would be like an archival object. So for example, Andre, if we had and I get there's a consistency issue here as well. So that's say people are using Read AI transcripts. So first of all, because there's access issues, we need to figure out where they are stored, or are they going to be stored somewhere, And to make that simple for ourselves, that ideally should be,
Yes.
and then once we have figured that out, then it's just, is it there or not, isn't it? So does this meeting have a read AI transcript? If it does, then maybe we can use it to supplement the information for the record. Andre, do you think that's possible? Yeah, I know.
If they give the link, we can save the link in the database.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
then later I can go and create something that looks at that link, looks at the
yeah,
API, because I know Read AI has got an API.
Yeah.
yeah.
Some
So it's like a two-stage process. So all we would be doing at the beginning to keep it simple is just create a link, and then okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
And how would that apply, for instance, with past meetings where we might be getting the transcript from Otter, and we might just have it as a doc or
I
whatever?
suppose the only thing is the kind of like any archival concerns is like, should that be a public? Should we put it on a repository, a public?
I think we've already said that if we can avoid that, then no, it should.
Yeah. If not, then well, we can put it on a private repository.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
um,
true.
and then what do you think? Is that the best way to source it, Andre? If we had a
sorry, my internet connection broke a little bit. Is Otter a link or is it text?
it will be
I think it
both.
would be a doc, wouldn't it?
Oh,
I don't know if it can.
I think you can do both. So
Okay.
I think you can link to it as like a website, or you can download it as a document in various formats, like a text format. So,
okay.
but if we were archiving it, the way because you don't want to rely on the platform that's hosting the information,
Yes.
the way I would suggest you do it is, I know maybe we need to think about this, is create a private repository on GitHub and store the transcript in text format there, and then that gives you a secure place to reference from any API, I suppose.
Because I feel the
Yeah.
same is probably true of Read AI then in that case.
Yeah. So again, because we have these concerns about privacy and so on, but then also at the same time we have concerns about the platform, so Read AI or Otter AI may disappear one day.
Exactly.
I mean,
So one thing that's interesting, I haven't got enough experience with Read AI to know if it does it as well, but Otter, you can set it so that rather than it trying to identify speakers by name, it just does speaker 1, speaker 2, speaker 3. So that could help around privacy, but it also, conversely, it doesn't help around attributing people's thinking to who they are. So I just think it'd be really ace if we could think about something that works around, what am I even saying? If somebody wants to be attributed, then they are. If they don't want to be, then they're just speaker 2. And I don't know if we can set it to do that, but I think we can.
Yeah, it's definitely a secondary project because it's like, it feels like it's expanding a lot of work on its own, don't you think, Andre?
Yeah, no, this is gonna be a lot of work. It is a whole separate project, eh?
Yeah,
In the
definitely.
future, it will they can just add links because there will be a tool that takes that link, takes the data from the API, makes our own version, so we don't depend on the platform anymore.
Yeah.
And by the time we get around to it, a solution might already be available because I've been checking online and transcription AIs are exploding. There's so many of them now.
Nice.
And they're doing some quite interesting things, like they might be doing things like you're talking about, Vanessa, like they might be able to anonymize content or create attribution, that kind of thing. So, the tool may already be out there that we could use. But
I mean, at the moment, what I'm aware of is that you can do one or the other in a meeting. You can have people attributed or not. But it'd be ace if somebody develops something where you can do it by speaker. And if somebody wants to be named, then they are. But
That we can, if we ever get there and there isn't a tool, we can bolt the tool. I will bolt that takes the link and looks at the API and then makes our own version. I can we can create like a checklist of a list of names that want to be anonymized, and then every time that name comes up, just say speaker 1, speaker 2.
Yeah,
Good, isn't it?
I suppose that's what I'm thinking of, is tools that, not tools that necessarily do a transcript, but tools that interpret an existing transcript.
Yeah.
So, and I suppose that's what you're talking about, Andre, as well, isn't it? So, and that, yeah, so I think there's all sorts of possibilities there. Like if you look at Reads AI, there's the hints of what it can do there. It can tag contextually, potentially. So then, although I know that's not perfect because it's making its own mind up about that, but if we could make that a bit more structured, I don't know, who knows. I suppose it depends on the meeting as well, because like with TiVo's meeting, we have some meetings are more structured than others. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. The only other question that I have is, okay, so we've talked about the idea of we'll start off just using it as a template, and people will fill that in and post it on the meeting summaries channel, and then I'll take it and I'll archive it. And then we've talked about the fact that that should develop into a tool so that people fill it in and it then posts to Discord. Is it also going to automate posting to the archive? Or am I still going to have to do it?
We can do that.
Ooh. Wow.
So then less work.
Is that more work though? Are you thinking of updating the back end to the GitBooks?
We can do that.
Yeah, it's possible.
I looked at the GitHub files and I saw, no, this is possible.
Okay.
So,
wow. Again, it's a piece of work.
It certainly is.
Yeah. So I'm just conscious of the workload, So.
Yeah. No, but just to know that is something that eventually will be possible if we have time, capacity, and money to do it. It's just really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about it. It's frustrating because we're talking about it in other meetings about how to connect the dots with a lot of these interfaces. So it's all useful stuff. There's also stuff that can be reused elsewhere as well.
Yes.
So it's good from that perspective.
That will actually be quite easy because it's very similar to what our treasury system also sends files to GitHub.
Right.
So when I do the formatting for Discord, I just do the formatting for the GitHub as well. And then it's like, it sends the message, sends to GitHub, done.
Does it literally just merge it into the...
yeah.
Really?
I already have that code, so I'm just going to copy and paste it, make some changes.
Cool. So literally goes to the backend repository and just merges in new text. Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
I just need to also make sure it goes into the right folder.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Week 27 or whatever. But so that I'll have to do some setup there.
Yeah.
But once that is set up, then it's easy.
And then I guess there's stuff around kind of headings, structures, and yeah.
Oh yeah, that also might be a little bit tricky, but maybe not that. That is something I haven't really done actually.
Yeah.
But what I can do is I've first save it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to experiment a little bit there because I only have experience in sending one file. I don't have experience in adding to an existing file. That's gonna be different thing.
I think
maybe I can delete the file and just replace it with a new version, but it might be a little bit tricky, but it's maybe like a week's work.
I think I mentioned or I was talking to Vanessa earlier about how we would do tagging in Markdown, and the only way I've seen that done previously is through Lucio's Capital School GitBook, where he created, I think I've discussed this in the past with you, Andre, a little bit, where he created he was using the hint feature in GitBook. And because it creates its own tag in Markdown. So I wouldn't be necessarily very pretty, but it'd be what you would do. You would put keywords or something in there, and then put commas to delimit them. Yeah.
Yes.
And then they'd be wrapped around that tag.
Yeah.
We haven't done
Yeah,
that.
we can do it like that.
Yeah, we could do it like that, but I know that it might be worthwhile getting in contact with Lucio, because I know he did do something like that for Catalyst School GitBook. But unless you know how to do it already,
I mean, if it's just a hint with commas separated words, I'll go and have a look at the Catalyst School GitBook.
Yeah, what he was doing, he was if you updated, I can't remember which way around it was it now. I think if you updated the GitBook, it updated the website, the Catalyst School website.
Okay.
The other person who might know about this a little bit is Cowie, maybe as well.
Yeah.
But I think it was mainly Lucio who did the work. Victor would be another person as well, but the person who did it was Lucio.
Yes.
Yeah, who's quite a cool bloke, as you know. So.
Yeah. I'll reach out if I see something that I might want to know.
Yeah, I'm sure he's the kind of thing he would interest him as well, actually.
Yeah.
So are we drawing?
Well, that's that. And then if we can just go to a quick look at the minimalist and the narrative templates. So minimalist first. You can see it is minimal. And if you just want to go to the here link there to see an example of it, it tends to be something that Video Workgroup has done. And for their sessions, that is kind of enough, I think. But I just wondered what everybody thought. Is that enough to archive about a meeting?
Well, it has the date. There are some useful information there. The attendees as well. Discussion workgroup. I mean, what's interesting about? Sorry, Andre. Go on.
I think this is good because it's short sentences. That's always good because then we don't have to break it up. It's a specific topic. That's already huge. It's actually great for us because the ChatGPT decides it looks at that sentence and it knows where to place this in the vector database.
The only thing I might say is to make sure it's a sentence, like a full stop, but the other thing, I think you're right, Andre, because if you take one of these sentences, you have in each sentence is like a context, isn't it? So and so if you look at here, you also got names. The inclusion of names is good as well. So you could look at that and say, okay, this sentence is about Rojo. So you can extrapolate that. It's about Rojo, and and then take the rest of it. Or this sentence is about Lily's work as well. So there are quite a lot you could extrapolate from how. So it's interesting actually, that, isn't it, to see how something that's concise and compact can provide a lot of context.
I mean, my question archivally is that if somebody wanted to know what had happened in that video workgroup meeting, there's no information about what the result of the discussion was. They discussed the workgroup progress. What did they decide? And I sort of feel like for what they're discussing, it probably is okay. And that's why I've put it as a minimal option. But what do you think? Do you think it misses out too much? There's no action items.
It kind of begs the question of should every work group have action items? I suppose it's the question. Exactly. And my gut feeling is no. But and the but would be unless there should be. And I suppose it needs to be. Well, that's not for us to decide, is it? It's for work groups and ambassadors to decide.
But I do think, what Peter was saying in the last meeting about trying to maybe not use this process, but kind of, sort of support best practice on kind of tracking your action items and stuff, trying to embed that in this. I sort of just think, do we need to direct people to not just say we discussed, but to also say we decided? I don't know.
What we can do with this one, because it's so short, and if they use the tool, then we can just show them these 4 topics at the top before they start filling it in. And if they want to comment on them, maybe find some way they can
Sorry,
comment
which
on
4
maybe?
topics?
There's in the meeting
Oh no, because those are going to be really different each time, aren't they?
yeah. So when they come to the next meeting and they
Right.
fill in the two, then these four
I
from
see.
last meeting will
I
show,
see.
and they can just leave a comment there if they want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, I'm thinking about that's quite interesting for other templates. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you design this, but so you would have a link to the previous meeting or some sort of summary of the previous meeting.
Yes.
I'm not sure what direction I'm going with this, but yeah,
Yeah.
it does provide a kind of guide for consistency. It helps people with consistency, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I suppose it doesn't go all the way to decision making, but it does sort of prompt people, to
Jeez.
it prompts context, doesn't it? Because it says, like, this is what
Yeah.
we discussed last time. And this is a problem in the ecosystem, is forgetfulness. So I think it'd be quite good,
Yeah. I mean, I sort of think that maybe it doesn't solve the issue that came up recently about sort of people needing to keep abreast of each other's work. Because if I read that, I know that they've discussed ways to increase the number of clips that they produce. And let's suppose that came up in another meeting that I was in, I wouldn't know what they'd said about it.
Yeah.
So, but I think it suits what they're doing, and it obviously, because this is what the video work group summaries are usually like. So it's working for them. And I kind of feel like maybe if we have these 3 templates and we see how they work,
As
maybe that's
experiments.
all we can do. Yeah. But we do need to, like, if we're going to experiment, we need to kind of, I don't know, collect some data or look at it in 2 months, 3 months and see how it's going.
We have 10 minutes left. So we go back to the last template.
Could we? Yeah. Could we just really quickly look at the narrative one? Okay. So I feel like even though I've been a little bit like, I'm not keen on the narrative approach, and we've said in previous meetings, it's hard to parse, it would be hard for an LLM to understand or whatever. It does seem more suitable for the discursive meetings that people have that are not about making decisions or creating action items. So what you can see is it's pretty similar to the full archival one at first. You've got your name and date and people present and all that, and any link to an agenda, and any media like video or Miro or whatever. And then there's 2 options. There's like a meeting narrative, which is kind of like, if you click on that here, you can see a really rough example of one of them from, I don't even know which one it is, but you can see how it's written, and it's quite chatty and it's quite narrative, basically. I feel like maybe we could do with some discussion about how to make that a bit briefer and a bit more information dense. For instance, where it says, we began with an intro to Grace Rachmani. Grace has her mind in many various projects, blah, blah. It could just say Grace Rachmani and link and a list of things she's done. So it's just restructuring it.
I'm just thinking that's the kind of material that is I won't do it now, actually, but you could just directly put into ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the same thing, because it's not bad at summarizing if it's got, I mean, the human wrote this, so it's accurate already.
Yeah.
And then ChatGPT can just summarize and maybe divide into topics.
Yeah. As long as you prompted it well, you should be able to, I think you can actually constrain it, can't you? Because you can say, make sure you just keep to the text and all that kind of stuff, And
yes.
I mean, I'd sort of like to say maybe try stripping out the padding, but yeah, like you say, an AI tool could do that. And I'm thinking that maybe if Read AI was used, the summary that it writes might be tighter than this one.
Yeah, it's a bit, maybe, but again, it's a bit hit and miss. But again, this is all great material for an experiment, I think, really.
And if you just go back to the the other alternative is issues discussed. And if you just have a look at the link, I did this for an onboarding meeting. So it was issues and then action items. So that's a slightly different approach, but it's still quite narrative. It goes through chronologically what we talked about in the meeting.
Yeah, again, we have context. So, these individual sentences, and also it's that what's good here They're not as short as the other one, but they're still quite short, aren't they, Andre?
Yeah. They're short enough. It's great if they are this length.
Yeah. And issues, well, I suppose it's more about what do you mean by issues, and are you very clear about that, and are you very clear about action items? And
I mean, in a sense, issues is really similar to agenda items. So it kind of, it's just another way of writing that.
Yeah. But as long as there's an understanding of the vocabulary, I don't see it's a problem, because it's just making a note of that maybe, and making sure, if it's going into an LLM, that the LLM knows what that is.
Yeah. I mean, I think I might change issues to agenda items or whatever, but do we feel that those 3 templates are sufficiently different and that they cover enough of the different feel of the different work groups?
What do you think, Andre?
I think it's great. I have one, and the only concern I have is, are people gonna use these templates?
I don't know.
But how? So will they use the template and then also still send the Discord message, or will it?
Well, if they, I mean,
will this template be the Discord message? If they're not, they don't have to do an extra step, eh?
It might be too long to be a Discord message. So what I'm going to suggest is that I pull each of these 3 templates out into a separate Google Doc, and people pick the one they want to use and they fill it in and they post it as an attachment. Because otherwise it might be too long to be especially the top one, to be a single Discord post. And the thing about it is that I can just then copy and paste into the archive until we fix up a tool and more automation.
And they do that in the meeting summaries channel, or
okay.
Yeah, I think it's, if they don't have to do extra work, then it will work, eh?
Yeah, I think that's great. I think also what I really like about it is, I mean, because you can say to people, look, we have discovered how people work already, and we've provided alternatives, Yeah. So it's not like, you have to do it this way, like Tivo does. You can do it this way, and you can do it in a narrative way. So I think that's quite flexible, to be honest. And also presented like an experiment as well.
Yeah, and people are going to have to pick one that they're going to use, and they are going to have to tweak it to suit themselves, and then it will be their template. So there will be like a video workgroup template and an onboarding template and whatever.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what people say as well, I suppose, because I'm not sure.
But I think the main thing now to ask about is how we're going to kind of, I hate this phrase, but how we're going to socialize it. And I'm thinking I have to speak directly to the workgroup leads and kind of talk them through it. But I also thought maybe I would try and do it as like a breakout room in the ambassadors town hall or something, and try and get some more feedback. And I'm just thinking all the stuff we've said about what it's going to lead to and how it will automate things and how it will enable the use of LLMs, that feels like a lot to throw at people, but I might try and put together some slides and run them by you, Andre, and you can see if I'm in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I mean, we do have this segment of the meeting as well, so I know.
But no one comes to it, Stephen. That's
I know. Well, I suppose it's a good reference for us. So, to our future selves, check this section of the meeting. And on that subject, we are coming to the 90-minute mark. So if we want to start to wrap up now, is there anything more you'd like to say on this, Vanessa? I think this is great.
No, it's brilliant. I'm really grateful for the feedback and the input. And
Andre, anything last words on this at all? Or?
No, this is great. I really like each one of them. It's great.
Yeah, I think it's good as well. So, I haven't put any notes in the issue. I mean, maybe I'm not sure if you want to, Vanessa, or asynchronous.
I should have been keeping notes while we were talking,
I
but I
know,
was too interested in the discussion.
if I go back to timestamping, I might be able to put something in then. If
Oh,
not,
that's a good idea. Yeah, that'd be great.
so
Yeah.
I'll try and the headlines. It won't be rocket science or anything, but yeah, just so you know. But with that, I'll close that issue down. And so this meeting was divided into a project board review, and the latter part of the meeting was a detailed discussion of guidance notes for meeting facilitators, where we were talking about templates that Vanessa had produced. So thank you everyone for watching. I'm going to stop share, tune in 2 weeks' time, and I'll stop the recording as well if I can find the button. Yeah.